next. Oops. God, I forgot to finish making my Holy Pandas last night, so I gotta finish that first before I do anything else. So oh, we're doing an acrylic plate actually. So I still have yet to peel off the protective coating on it, so we get to do that today. So oh yeah, let me show you like all the parts. So like for the acrylic plate, so it definitely has a lot more flex than aluminum. And people like that better for tactile switches, like the ones that I'm making today. So with a little bump on it. Actually, I don't know if I'm coming through all right. Let's turn up the mic a bit, like so, and bring down the music. Okay. So there's gonna be a little bit of like background noise because my mic sucks, but yeah. So here's the PCB. So it's the 1UP. So it's fully hot swap. It's got the RGB on it. It's got USB-C. Yeah. And it's really nice, and like on the front it's just like flat, black, glossy. It's great. And then the case that I'm going to use today is this boy. So this was a group buy from Centrac.com like a year or so ago. So it's aluminum with like a thick acrylic strip in the middle, and then it does have a brass weight on the bottom. It's a little bit scuffed up because I got it like secondhand, but still has kind of like a mirror finish. Oops. But yeah, it's like super heavy. And then the switches I have to finish making are Holy Pandas, which, well, these are a clone. Supposed to be the most tactile switches in the game right now. I think, at least my opinion, is that the where is it? I do have the Zelio V2s, and to me they feel a lot more tactile than the Holy Pandas, but to me this is like a better, I would say. Like, it's not as harsh of a bump, it's like just enough. So I haven't built a whole board of them yet, but that's what today's for. So I believe I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pandas left to make. Yeah. So it's pretty much just housing bottom, spring, stem, and top. Awesome. And now we just have to repeat that process of 8 more times. Because I came unprepared. And you could lube these. I did not lube them. One, because I'm really lazy, and 2, I think it's smooth enough without lube. Then I want to feel it, like kind of break them in, see how they feel like stock before I lube them. Yeah. Is the music kind of like an okay level now, or is it still like a little bit too high? Because I was gonna use my record player and just play music through there, but for some reason it's not coming through like that. Thanks, Noah. But yeah, Gatorons are definitely smooth enough without applying lube to it. The lube also, like, what the lubes will do, or what lubes will do for Gatoron switches, like, there definitely is a difference, but most of it is in kind of like the sound category, as well as regular Gatorons, like the springs they come with are okay, but the springs on them, you can kind of hear like a little crunching noise, and if you like put lube on it, it definitely does help with that. It also makes the upstroke a little bit quieter. So to kind of demonstrate, I do have kind of like this ghetto switch tester with some Otemu switches. So these are Otemu Sky switches. I don't know if there we go. So this one over here is a stock switch, and then this one I've applied a little bit of lube to it. And these are also tactile switches, but it'll sound pretty similar to the linear switches. So let's see. Turn this down for a second. So no lube, and then with lube. So there definitely is a difference, but mostly sound and just kind of like the extra stuff that's going on versus like the actual action of the Switch, so to say. So that's the difference that lubing makes. I was thinking of like other camera angles and stuff like that, but this is the one that one YouTuber guy does, Nathan Kim, so I'm just gonna keep this one because it works well enough. I don't have to flip my camera around or anything like that. Oh shit. Man down! That's also one of the dangers of doing this kind of stuff, is that you're spring loading everything, and then if you let go of it, parts start flying. There's a big market for people who want silent switches. I actually do have some this is a silent Gateron switch, and kind of opening it up, the stem actually has kind of like these white rubber bumpers, if you can see, that actually makes it a lot quieter than if you were to lube them. It's pretty much all choice, like what kind of thing you're going for, because some people want to go for just completely silent switches like this, where it's like it reduces like the plastic on plastic sound by a lot. One more to go, because I'm out of... Oop. I'm out of switch stems otherwise. Oh, another thing that I completely forgot to do before I started streaming today was to test the PCB to see if it actually works, because that's actually a little bit important. So let's see here. Yeah, this is just kind of like a regular USB-C cable. I got this for like $2 at Fry's because it's on clearance. Let's see here. Oh, alright, cool. So it works, lights up, it shows up on the device manager, so we are in business here. Let's see here. Just gonna wait for that to install before I start messing with this. So another thing is the stabilizers. So cool. So I got the stabilizers from Novel Keys, and they're the screw-in kind, so it's a lot more stable than the regular snap-in kind. You would get the snap-in ones if you have a PCB that looks like Swiss cheese, like there's so many different layouts that it supports. Like see a PCB like this one has like 20 different holes for like everything to go through, and so if you use like the screw-in stabilizers like I'm doing here, those screws could actually like touch metal and short stuff out, and it could range, like the issues could range from like pressing keys when you don't want it to just straight up killing the board. And that PCB over there is an example of a dead board, but not from the screw-ins, just from it repeatedly soldering and desoldering it. So PCB works, that's awesome. And let's see, we'll go ahead and plug in a switch here to make sure that it works. And we will pop this guy up. Switch. You would think... Oh, never mind. You're just gonna have to take my word that this works. So just going to pop in a switch right now. And so now it's registering on my computer. So that's good. So things work tentatively. So we can just go ahead and unplug this for now, because we are going to we do have to clip and lube these stabilizers first before we put it into the board. What that does is prevent the stabilizers from being like too rattly, and this is important especially for linear switches like the reds, yellows, blacks, etc. Because yeah, let's see here. Because this is an example of a board I didn't clip the stabilizers, lube them at all, and this is on a linear board Gateron clears. So it sounds kind of muffled because there's kind of like a little piece of plastic at the bottom that's preventing it from going all the way down. And it's just generally not desirable because it just sounds different from the rest of the board. So basically clipping, lubing these stabilizers is going to make it sound and feel like the rest of the board. So these ones do come pre-assembled, but we're going to go ahead and take them apart. So everything just all kind of snaps, together, kind of snaps apart. So just kind of bend it out, pull it out, and then we do have two separate parts here. So the one that the keycap actually mounts to, and then the part that mounts on the board. Just want to make sure that they stay oriented because I don't want to forget the orientation, put it in the wrong way, etc. So right here I have a well-used pack of Super Lube. This is the 1mm 1mm tube, and it's like this has lasted me about 5 keyboards so far. So like one of these will take you a very long way. And so all you got to do is just, oh, my bad, I completely forgot about clipping the stabilizers. So that's the other thing to make them feel right. So let's try and focus in on this. So if you can see, there's kind of like 2 of the legs that are kind of raised above, which would be this one right here. Let me get that manual focus in. There we go. So yeah, so this leg right here, and then this leg right here. So these are the ones that we're going to cut off. And so we just go snip 1. Just grabbing it, make sure it's not going to fly around everywhere. Snip 2. So this is gonna go for most Cherry style stabilizers, so like the snap in and the screw in ones. And then also this is only really gonna apply to like the genuine ones made by either Cherry or GMK. So those are the ones that are typically a little bit more expensive. There's like cheaper ones that come from China that they come pre-clipped. They don't have these extra legs on the bottom, but the tolerances aren't as tight, and so you need to apply like a lot more lube to get them to feel correct. Let's see here. And so all we're gonna do is just add just a really tiny bit. So you see how there's like just that tiny amount that comes up over out of the package. That's all you need per item that we're going to be lubing today. So what we're going to do is we're going to lube both the inside of the stabilizer housing as well as the entirety of the body of the insert. So the way that I always do this is, so the lube's already on the brush, and then I just kind of swish it around in there for a few seconds. You definitely don't have to be precise with this, because if you like, the more you use your keyboard, the more the lubricant's just going to just kind of like distribute itself around. You just want to make sure you get enough on there. And then so for this one, all we're going to be doing is just lubing the whole thing, except for the cross stem. And then we're also going to be lubing the little hole where the wire goes, because that's one of the big parts that contributes to the rattling. And so now that this part's lubed, I can go ahead and just slide it back in here. And let's see. So the way to align this is that one side of the stabilizer has 2 holes, and then the other side has just 1 hole. So the side with 2 holes is going to face this side where the wire clips in. All you gotta do is just drop it in there. And then my test to see that it's enough is if you pull it up all the way and it stays up, it doesn't fall back down. So to me, that's how I know I've applied enough lubricant to this. So now that that's done, we go ahead and we're gonna repeat the process for the other ones. I'm a little bit sad that my record player is not going through the mic, because I was about to flex all of my records. Oh, maybe I should bring it back to manual focus. That'll help a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Oh, you can even hear my watch too. Shit. Let's take that off. So definitely, like I said, definitely not a lot that needs to be applied. But just enough so that it'll stay up when we pull it. So now that the 2 sides of the plastic parts are lubed, now we can go ahead and lube the wire itself. Tiny dot of lube, like even less than what you were using for these plastic parts, because the only things that we're going to be lubing are the parts where the wire is touching the plastic. So right over here, like right after this joint, and then most of like the bent part. And I would say that this is definitely too much lube that I applied, but can't really see it because I love manual focusing or autofocus. So once you've got one side lubed, you can go ahead and insert it into the housing and through the wire. And you also want to make sure that it's going into the lower hole of the insert. You don't want it to go up here. Oh. Definitely don't want it to go like up here on this top hole. Always the bottom one. So you put it in all the way, and then you make sure that it snaps back in. So same thing for the other side. I overdid it a little bit on the lube again, but it happens. So same thing, bottom hole. Nope, that's the top. There we go. And make sure it's clipping into that clip right up there. So this is done being built. So now we can go ahead and put it directly onto the PCB. So for for these kinds of stabilizers, the PCB mounted ones, you're going to want to put them onto the PCB before any switches or before the plate goes on. Otherwise, if you forget it, then if this was like a traditional one where like you solder all the switches into the PCB, you'd have to desolder all of that just to put the stabilizer back on and then go back. And so that's I've definitely never made that mistake before. And so for the stabilizers, so the little clip part that's kind of sticking out, that goes into the larger hole. And so the smaller hole is where the screw is going to go in. So just going to hook that up over there. And I guess when you buy it from Novel Keys, they don't give you like plastic spacers for the screws, but I've heard some other places definitely do that. So that would have definitely helped out a little bit. Alright, so make sure that it's firmly in place for the plastic part, and then now we can go ahead and screw this part in. And seeing that this has just like one fixed layout, I don't think I'm gonna need any plastic washers. But if it ends up that like some keys are activating for whatever reason, then we're gonna have to go back and apply some tape to the holes. And thankfully that's not something that we would have to disassemble the entire keyboard for. We just have to unscrew it, just add some tape in the hole, and then just put it back together. So not as much of a problem. So now that this keyboard doesn't require me to like solder any of the switches in, I would say doing the stabilizers is probably the most tedious part. I would say, so if you can kind of see this one, the plastic part is pretty much, come on. The plastic part is pretty much flush with the PCB at this point. Focus. Yeah, so this one, the plastic is kind of just flush with the PCB, and when it's that tight, that's all you need to go for. This one, you can see it's still, I don't know if you can see, but it's still kind of lifted off of the PCB just a little bit. So just kind of screw it in a little bit more. Like you'll definitely feel some resistance, but you'll definitely be able to feel it, or feel when it's like starting to go too tight. And then I don't think there's gonna be like too much issues with screwing it in too tight, because you know the plastic is softer than the PCB material and also the screw. So I would say to not worry about that too much. So now we have to go ahead and do the same thing, lube and clip the two smaller ones. So the layout that I have, the right shift key is split between two keys. So like that and that. And then also the backspace is also split into two keys. So this particular board requires two less stabilizers than like a standard layout board. So this is kind of like a Sangan layout, which is a mix between like the Happy Hacking keyboard layout, but there's also some keys on the very corners. And I tried the Happy Hacking keyboard layout. I wasn't too thrilled with it, just because like I really like having control right down here. It's also because I'm too used to pinky scratching in Beatmania 2DX. Set that back to autofocus. Just make sure that these tiny plastic legs don't fly anywhere you don't want them to. Oh, well, there you go, Noah. I guess I just kind of grew up with my pinky being like a super awkward position, or just kind of like more spread out from the rest of my hand. Because otherwise, like, I like the Happy Hacking layout, other than, like, again, the pinky things. That, and I also like having arrows on the bottom area. Like, for me, I absolutely cannot stand having the arrows, like having to hold like the FN key and then like whatever that diamond thing was for the arrow keys for the HHKB. I just use it to navigate through stuff like way too much. Yeah, like definitely I like the HHKB layout like aesthetically, and I like having the split backspace and having the split right shift, because it puts the backspace like where I think it was always supposed to be, which is like right here versus like all the way at the very top. Like, to me, that's the one thing that I can't live with on my like normal keyboards. I think I can save the VOD. Also, did I lube the inside of this thing? Yes, I did. Yeah, just remind me to save the VOD, because I always forget. Cool. And cool. Or I could just put this up on my YouTube or something. That'd probably be better. I probably should have thought about that a little bit more. But, oh well. Oh, that's way too much. What I'm going to do is use that to lube the inside of one of these just a little bit more. Because better to lube these parts more than the wire. And then I'll just install both of these in the board once I'm finished. Once I'm finished with lubing. Oops. This way. And this way. I'm like totally getting everything in the wrong order. And so just to kind of reiterate, this is kind of what we're looking at once you're done clipping the insert. So you're not clipping like everything off, just the legs. And I would just say make sure you don't touch surfaces you've already lubed, because it'll make your hands feel kind of nasty, and then you'll probably have to like redo the lube on that part. So that's pretty much why I'm lubing in the order that I do, because it's like you lube it and then you don't have to touch it, and then it's not touching like my desk or tabletop or anything like that. Let's go this way. Alright, so stabilizers are built. I can go ahead and put this lube away now. So without soldering, that's pretty much just like the most tedious part of this whole thing. Let's see here. Why are you not going in? There we go. Also very useful is a magnetic screwdriver, because a lot of screws are going to be magnetic. If they're not, then it's just like a sad time all around, because you just kind of have to like drop it in and hope it lands where it's supposed to. Because the last keyboard that I built, the Tada 68, well, the default screws were magnetic, but the ones on this new wood case that I got were not. So I pretty much just kind of had to like drop it in with tweezers and hope it landed in the right spot. So that was kind of a mess. Let's see where. There it is. Where did I? There it is. go. You see how they're kind of staying up when I pull them out? So that's about how much lube that I feel is good for stabilizers. Oh yeah, and also another thing about hot swap boards like these is that you want to install the switches with like the PCB completely touching like whatever surface it's on. Because if you're kind of like freehanding it and you you push a switch in, like these sockets that are installed on the back can pop out. It's only really an issue if you like take it out and pop it in like a bunch of times, or if the little pins like these guys, like they're not aligned with the holes on there. So like before you put the switches in, just make sure that those pins look good. So now we can go ahead and put the switches in and start getting to it essentially. We can go ahead and start peeling this off so we can see the full glory of the acrylic plate. Just trying to find a good place I can start picking from. There we go. And so this plate is also going to have kind of like all the same holes as like a regular aluminum or stainless steel plate, because they're kind of like they're built for what's called a universal layout, which it's not so universal now that a lot of different... Oh Jesus, everything went wrong. But now that a lot of newer layouts have been becoming more common recently, like one where there's like just dedicated arrow keys in the bottom corner, and then they kind of like shorten the left switch by a little bit, or the left shift by a little bit. Like that's not supported by this one, but stuff like the 7-unit spacebar, the split right shift, and the split backspace, like the stuff that I'm doing, is supported by this, as well as just the traditional like the traditional keyboard layout. This is not how I wanted this peel to go. This is the most unsatisfying plastic peel I have probably ever had. Thanks, I hate it. And so for like a plastic plate like this, the plate is used more to just kind of like align the switches and make sure that they're all lined up, versus like adding rigidity and weight to the case. And also, not gonna lie, I'm choosing this clear plastic one for aesthetics, because I really want to see like the Panda switches in their full glory, because like they're red. How could I just like hide half of them behind like, or like half of the switch behind like a plate? Doesn't even separate properly. Now we're getting somewhere. Awesome. There we go. So, acrylic plate. Just to make sure that all the switches are showing through. And so now from here, all I gotta do is just slap the switches in there, slap the keycaps in there, and we are good to go. So the way that I do this is I put one switch roughly in the center to make sure that it kind of goes in properly. So switch to plate first, and then put the whole thing on. And this is definitely going to be a lot less complicated for an aluminum or a metal plate, mostly because this one's like about 3 millimeters thick, which is a little bit too thick for the switches to clamp into, and so it just kind of like guides it into position, but it doesn't really secure it in there. Oh, I dropped it. Shit. But yeah, I'm starting in the corners or in the middle, and then I'll do the corners, and then from there, that gives me enough support to kind of do the rest of the board. And then, like I said, just make sure that the switch pins are going properly into where they're supposed to go. Because a bent pin or a bent hot swap socket is definitely not the business. I know I said to install it on the table, but the plate's having a little bit of trouble staying properly up against the switch. Like if it's not like right underneath like the ridge of the switch right there, then there's basically no point to the plate even being there. And if it looks like I'm putting switches in a random order, I kind of am. Just essentially my goal is to keep the plate properly mounted. So as you can probably see, there's like a little bit, like there's a gap from where the plate should be to the PCB. It shouldn't be like all sandwiched together. unless your plate is like 4 or 5 millimeters, because that's the amount of gap that should be there. There we go. Right now I'm just kind of giving you a quick visual inspection to make sure that properly installed. Like, you'll see the pins kind of like poking out of like these little holes in the back of the sockets. Just making sure that they all went all the way through. Also, I really hope I made enough switches, because it would be a little tragic if I didn't. It'd be a lot tragic. Hey. I'm gonna use a little plastic something. Just want to make sure that, again, the switches or the plate is properly distanced from the PCB. So that's kind of like the trade-off of having a plastic acrylic plate like this versus aluminum acrylic. Maybe this will work. Or maybe it'll crack the plate, but we'll see. So I can already kind of tell that I do not have enough switches. Definitely gonna have to make some more. That's cool. Oh my goodness, I'm off by like 2 switches. Let's see what I can do about that plate kind of flexing. And then after that, I'll go ahead and make those 2 extra switches that I forgot. If we feed a wire through here. Whoa. Holy crap. I will say this is definitely never going to be an issue with the aluminum or stainless steel plate. I'm just really... Oh, actually, no, we're good. It's all properly lifted. Other than this corner. There we go. That corner. Making sure everything is properly seated into both the plate and PCB. Okay. Now, just to make those extra two switches that I somehow missed. And so a halo switch, so a Holy Panda, what it actually is a combination of two switches, a Halo switch, which you can get on Massdrop, as well as a Panda switch or a clone. They were the original ones were called Pandas because they had a white housing with a black stem, and they were a linear switch. And so the Halo switches were thought to be like the next innovation in tactile switches, because they tried to recreate the feel of Topre switches, like the Happy Hacking Keyboard, like the Real Force, etc., etc. But in an MX form, so that you could use your custom keycaps, and also so that you could just build in different formats, which Topre only really includes like the 60% with the Happy Hacking Keyboard, and then like a regular 10 keyless layout with the Real Force, as well as the full size layout with the numpad. But what people found out was that these stems from the Halo switches, when you put them inside a Panda housing, like these ones, these are a clone of the original Panda housing. But what they found out was that it increased tactility to the point where people call them the most tactile switch on the market. And so they went super wild for them, to the point where these switches were costing $5 to $6 a piece, which even for like die-hard like keyboard builders and fanatics, like it was to the point where it was a little bit too much. And so what's happening now is that there's a whole bunch of like these clones of Holy Pandas coming out, and then also Zeal has kind of made these version 2 switches that has kind of like a similar bump profile where it's like a really huge bump that starts up at the top. Dubbed the Zelio V2s. And so we're kind of in like this renaissance of tactile switches where everybody's kind of coming out with their own clone, and prices just keep coming down and there's more choices for everybody. It's becoming more like possible, it's more possible to get them. And so everybody's happy except for the people who paid $6 per Switch. And we will just go ahead and put these extra housings away. To be honest, I don't remember where I put the springs. Come on, buddy. There they are. So at this point now we have a full board of Holy Red Panda switches. And so now we are ready to install it into our case. So I can go ahead and put away this keyboard. We'll set it aside. We'll go ahead and take out this case. All right. Well, let's see, is there a reset button on here? Yes, there is. I'm just going to go ahead and program this keyboard before it goes into the case. Let's see here. I already put away my keyboard. Let's see, move to a new window. Come on, buddy, you can do it. Oh, now switch header works. So I guess we could do that first. Going to make sure that all of these switches are registering. Pop that on there. So it's gonna go key by key. So far so good. Everything is registering. I don't know if this is like a that's like a FN button or something like that. We'll see. I'll go ahead and reprogram. Let's see, properties. Alright, we'll just ghetto rig it, display capture, and put that up there. So there is an online configurator at config.qmk.fn. So if you don't know how to code, all you gotta do is just go in here. Let's see, 1UP keyboards, and it is the HTE. This looks different from what I'm used to. Let's see, that's escape. That's backspace. Load default. Cool. No default key map yet. That's always good. Oops. We do not want that to be caps lock. Excuse me. So what I'm going to set these four bottom keys to be is my dedicated arrows, because I love my arrows. I'm gonna go cough for a hot second. Just be right back. Fuck. So this is kind of weird because I'm missing, there's one key missing up here and then there's one extra key at the bottom. So I don't know which one's which. We will go to 1UP keyboards and hopefully they have some kind of hint. Okay, well that looks exactly the same pretty much. I guess they're redoing this whole thing, and so it looks a little bit different. So instead, what we're gonna do for now is go to kbfirmware.com. Fit to screen. I'm gonna download this JSON. Okay. So a little bit less elegant of a solution, but we do what we need to here. So that's backspace. That's going to be not caps lock. That's going to be my first FN key. Let's see. That's up. That's down. That's left, and that is right. And then we'll set this as our right shift. Left shift, turn backspace. Okay, so the default layer looks good. And then what we're gonna do is set up our second layer using this. So we're gonna modify the layer, and then the top row is going to be F1 through F12. F6, F7. And then we're going to set FN and backspace and turn it into delete. And then what I like is transforming the like FN and the arrow keys are going to become like the navigation layers. So we're going to have home, and up is going to be page up, down is going to be page down. And then insert will be up there in the corner. And then one of the other important things to me is that the function key plus P is print screen. That always is the best configuration for me. And then also we do need to set a reset button, so it's going to be FN plus the right shift or the right FN key that I like never use ever. So that's pretty much all I need to set up personally. So we'll go ahead and download the hex, and then we'll go ahead and flash it directly to my keyboard. Oh yeah, I forgot to set the RGB layer. So we will do that as well. So we'll go to lighting. So FN plus Q is going to be the toggle on and off. The next, or W, is going to be the mode, and then from there it's going to be like changing the hue, changing the saturation, and then changing the value, so how bright it is. Oops, that's gonna be that one, and then this is going to be transparent. Alright, so now we can go ahead and compile, download, etc., etc. And we'll save that JSON just to keep the settings. And what I'm going to do is fire up QMK Toolbox on my computer. So this is something that you do have to download. We will open the hex file that I just downloaded. Make sure that's set to auto flash. Make sure that the microcontroller is set to Atmega32U4. And then what I'm going to do here is hit the reset button on the keyboard, so right over here, and then when I hit that, it should just automatically start flashing the keyboard. So it's doing things. It looks like he's doing things. Flash. Okay, so let's go ahead and check if it worked. So we'll go back to the switch hitter, and the bottom 4 arrows should be the arrow keys if it's flashed right, which it looks like it is, so we are all set to go. That's the pipe, that's backspace. Okay, awesome, we're good. We can go ahead and install this into the case, and then we can go ahead and install keycaps on there. We will be all set to go. We will be all Gucci. We close out of that. Hide that. And so we set a reset button in the software because there's no hole for the reset button on the case. Oh, there we go. Looks like you had a little bit of trouble fitting, but we're good now. And just gotta screw it in. Well, program the keyboard's not exactly the hardest. I would say it is time consuming, but as long as you're choosing like a regular or like a very often used PCB, and as long as you don't have to make too many changes, you should have no problem. And so there's oops, I guess that one is not the right kind of screw. I just kind of grabbed a bunch of random screws from my kit. And so there's six holes to screw in the PCB to the case. So you're going to be looking at right over here, here. There's one right here. It's kind of hard to see on this one, but it's right in between where the G and the H key are. There's going to be one right next to the space bar, one over here next to the like the bracket of the pipe key, and then right here on the very edge. So what I do here is I screw everything in, but I don't screw it down all the way because there is still like a little bit of play involved. And now that I have all the screws where I want them to go, I can go ahead and just tighten everything down. And from there, we can go ahead and put the keycaps on. So usually I start with like the bigger ones, like the space bar, enter, etc., etc. There's not a lot of them here, but I still do start with them first. Spacebar's a little warped, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And also something to check right now, before you put everything on, is that the stabilizers are properly lubed. So let's see here, pause the music for a sec, and then what I do to check that I've lubed the stabilizers properly is once the keys are on there, I kind of like rub them around a little, try and like make the plastic kind of like hit each other, and it's not very rattly right now, which is a good thing. So yeah, so to me at least it sounds like I've lubed these properly. Oops. It's the thing about hot swap is that these switches can come out pretty easily as well. Let's see here. Smash those guys back down. Looks like oh, there we go. The plate was getting caught on the side of the case a little bit, which was kind of making everything look kinda jank. Like it looks like there's absolutely no clearance whatsoever between like the plate and the case. There we go. Alright, now everything is looking fine and dandy. Cool. now I can go ahead and keep going on the rest of the keys. Usually I go from the bottom row, kind of work my way up. That's a little harsh, so let's try that, because this is a white on black set, so doesn't look really good on the webcam. Oh, goodness. My bad. Oh. I really hope I'm not getting sick, because I don't need that kind of stuff in my life right now. Everything a good press, make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. That snap did not sound good, but we will see. Just make sure everything is lined up. Yep. Best it'll get, and then we'll just put a little bit of flair on there. Yeah. Oh, actually. Oops. What will go great with the white on black is another white key. Put this Prime Caps Jazz key right there on top. Perfect. So there we go. We have a, push that down a little bit, fully built and programmed keyboard. Just gotta plug it in and let it rip. RGB works. Let's see if we can crank up the brightness a little bit. Doesn't look like it. Turn it down, so that's as high as it goes. So the FN key plus W switches the mode. So there's kind of like a RGB mode. So that'll just kind of like circle the lights. And then we'll go ahead and desaturate it a little bit. Get a little bit closer to white because that's going to make it a little bit brighter. Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll do that. Why not? And we will change this into cyan. So it's going through the whole thing. And oh, yikes. I'm not actually sure what that noise is, but okay. There we go. Alright, so let's try this out. Go ahead and put the microphone about, yikes. So this is probably about 6 inches away from the 6 inches away from the keyboard, and we'll go try at typeracer.com. That's neat. The noise happens when I'm touching the metal part, so it's some sort of like coil whine or something like that. I don't know. Here we go. It was okay. 89. But the first thing that I'm liking about this keyboard is the sound. Like, it sounds really, really good. It's okay. I really like the sound of the spacebar right now. There's like zero rattle at all, and it's just like, it's a solid sound. Like, this is just really snappy, and I really like it. This is great. Awesome. Let's try one more. Yay. It's finally a first place. Alright, cool. Awesome. So this whole thing works great. Let's see. Yeah, the function layer works. Page down, page up. We'll leave that. Okay, we are all good to go. So that is a keyboard 100% completed. So yeah, that's probably gonna be it for the stream, unless you want to see me playing like some dumb rhythm games. Let's see. Close out that. Close out more. Alright, well, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream here. Hopefully this has been very informative. Hopefully I'll find some way to save this, like save this VOD or something like that. Like, I'll try my best and find a way to leave it up or something like that. So I will see ya around.